So we're up to Chof Hey Omid Base. We might need your services, Peter, as we go through this. But it's all on Safaria, what we'll need. So just beware. We're in the middle of the Mishnah, and we pick this up about 9 lines up. 9 lines up on Chof Hey Omid Base. And we're continuing on the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Ra'uhu Bezdin. If the Bezdin saw the moon, imagine a wonderful clear night, the Bezdin see the moon, all the Bezdin, doesn't matter how many members. Yamdu Shanayim, for your two of them stand up and give testimony in front of the others. Okay, in front of them. That's what the Mishnah says. Okay, everyone saw the moon, and 2 of them will have to give testimony to the remainder. Now, we'll see an interesting principle coming up here. Va'amai. Why do they need to do this? Have a look at Rashi, Va'amai. Va'amai yamdu shnayim v'yo'idu. Why should they give testimony in front of the others? What do you mean? Why shouldn't they? Halo ro'uhu kulon. All of them saw it. Imagine they're all together, they're having a meeting, and they're outside, and they all see the moon. Yikadshuhu biri'iyosam. That's all you need. They can just say, Mekudesh, Mekudesh, that's all. Why? Keep your finger on the place there, and you'll see the Gemara says, Lo tahei shemiya gedola miri'iyah. Why should listening to these people say they saw the moon, why should that be better than actually seeing it yourselves? What does that mean? Go back to the Rashi, please. The lo tahei shemiya sheshoymi mipi edim. So you got these dayanim, they're listening to the witnesses saying they saw the moon. What, that shouldn't be any better, gedola miri'iyah, than actually seeing the moon. Why not? Now this is important. It doesn't actually say that you must have testimony as such. Now, if you had a normal case, let's say a capital offense, sadly a murder, there's a rule, al-pi shnei edim, 2 witnesses must give testimony about that event. So you do normally need 2 witnesses, but you don't here. I know we always speak about 2 witnesses coming along. Continue Rashi, lo kasiv edus. It doesn't specifically mention there needs to be testimony, whether you like it or not. But the reason for the testimony is only to clarify whether the moon was seen. Elo kozer re'eva kadesh. Do you remember that pasuk? HaChodesh hazeh lochem rosh chodoshim. You see the moon like that and be mekadesh it. All you really need is to see the moon, and then you can be mekadesh it. Why are we always been speaking about Eidim? Because the Dayanim need to be certain that in fact they did see the moon. They might have made a mistake, and therefore only by asking some astronomical questions, where was it, what was it like, what sign, etc., can Dayanim be certain that the moon was seen. But you don't actually need witnesses. So if the Dayanim, well versed in the subject, they're all there, and they all are, the whole group of them, looking up, they see the moon, that's all they need. They don't need to actually sit down and two people say, we saw the moon today. Do you understand the question? In other words, in the case of sanctifying the moon, Kiddush HaChodesh, we just need to know the new moon was visible. Once it's visible, you can say, Kozer Re'eva Kadesh, say Makudesh, it's now the new moon, it's the new day, the new month. With me? If Dayanim, who are well-versed in the subject, they know whether they were fooled or not. They look up, they see the moon, that's all they need. They could just say, gentlemen, Kazer Re'eva Kadesh, Makudesh Makudesh. That's all. Why, in this case, the Mishnah says that the two witnesses have to actually give testimony in front of the other Dayanim. If there was a gap, then that would be a different thing. You have to say, we saw the moon, right? We saw the moon now, now you can say, in Makudesh, Makudesh. If you actually see it, you look up, you point, you say, Makudesh, Makudesh. You with me? Unless there's a gap in time and people are coming, even Dayanim, and they would be saying, we saw the moon whenever. Otherwise, you just go straight from visibility, saying, there's the moon, we can see it, Makudesh, Makudesh. If you can't do that, it's true. If you've got other people coming to say they saw the moon, then what you do is they'd say, we saw the moon, good, we hear what you're saying, Makudesh, Makudesh. But you understand the question the Gemara is asking on the Mishnah, why is it that two witnesses, especially when they are the Dayanim themselves, cannot just say a very straightforward Makudesh, Makudesh? Now have a look at the answer of the Gemara, please. Says the Gemara, Omer Rab Zera, Kagon Shero'uhu Balayla. They saw it at night. So what? You cannot sanctify the moon at night. So therefore, the following day, continue Rashi, Hilkoch Lemocha, the following day, I Lav Shemia Amayakadshu. How are they going to say Makudesh, Makudesh? You need to say Makudesh, Makudesh based on something. You can't just suddenly meet and say Makudesh, Makudesh. You with me? You need somebody to say, oh, we saw the moon last night. Great. Makudesh, Makudesh. If you'd see the moon, you'd point up to it and say, there's the moon, Makudesh, Makudesh. With me? So that's why the following day, what you're going to have is people saying, we saw the moon, in which case they need to say that in front of other Dayanim. You with me? So if they actually saw the moon, it would be enough just to point up, there's the moon, Makudesh, Makudesh. If they're coming giving testimony, then you've got to do the job properly, and you'd have the other Dayanim who'd listen to you saying, we saw the moon. Otherwise, they don't know what you're coming to talk about, right? It's very simple. You would, is everybody happy with that? If they see the moon directly, that would be fine. Now, so it turns out the Mishnah that says you seat other Dayanim, and then these Dayanim, two of them, the people who saw the moon, would relate over to the other Dayanim the following morning, we saw the moon, right? Okay, Makudesh, Makudesh. Now, had they actually seen the moon, they could just point up and say Makudesh, Makudesh. When would that happen? How could it be that they saw the moon? Don't forget, this Makudesh, Makudesh happens when you see the moon, and then the following day is going to be, instead of being day 30, it will be day 1, because you've had a 29-day month. Day 30 becomes day 1. So you would have to have seen that new moon. When would you have seen the new moon? Where the Gemara says that had they seen the moon, they could just say Mekudesh, Mekudesh there and then, point up at the moon. When would that have happened? How could that have happened that they saw the moon? Don't forget, it's got to happen during the day. How can it happen in the day that they see the, don't forget, you're talking here about a very small crescent moon, very close to Rosh Chodesh. So it's very near the sun. The only time you could really get a glimpse of that moon during the day, very early on, would normally be after sunset. Now, if I can ask you, please, Peter, let's have Safaria, and the most fascinating Rambam on this subject. Please go to Mishnah. Scroll down, no, not to Rosh Hashanah, but right to the end, and it'll give further. Yeah, more. A little bit further. Here we are. Bartanura, Rashi, Rab, and Rambam. We know about the Rambam? Actually, just go back one. Just in case you're interested. Before you turn, oh, no, go back again. I just want to read that to you. Remember? Started writing in 1161 at the age of 23. Now this is the Rambam's Pirush on all Mishnayos. Besides the fact he's got his monumental piece, what's called the Yod Chazaka, he's also got a Pirush on the Mishnayos. Now please press Rambam. Now come down to Rosh Hashanah. On the right. Now we are in Perek 3, chapter 3, Perek Mishnah 1. Okay, now scroll down a bit. You probably won't get a translation of this, I don't think. You can try on where it says A Aleph. Let's go for it. No, I didn't think they'd translated this yet. Okay. Now, what I want to show you is something very interesting. You scroll, make it a bit larger for us. Thank you. One more. Thank you. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines up from the end of this Mishnah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he explains about how it works on this Mishnah. Now, this is very umima, the end of that line, please. Umima sha'ato tzorich lodas. This is what you need to know. Ki hayoreach, the moon, Kushenira. Now, as I mentioned to you before, very early on, you're not going to see that moon, not in the day. You won't see it in the day. You'll only see it after sunset, if you're going to see it at all during the day. Now, look at this. Ki hayoreach kushenira bismanoi, v'hu yoim esrin v'tisha. It's still day 29. It's moving from 29 to 30. Now, we've always imagined if day 30 is going to be transformed into day 1, you'd see that moon sometime during the night. Says the Rambam, it's also visible during that day, the last moments of day 29, Arvis. Wow. The nishar min hayoim, there'll be enough of the day, kedei sheyomru mekudesh mekudesh, kodem sheyiru hakoichovim, before the stars will be seen. Well, there'll be more about this in a minute. Kizeh mutter. It will still be mutter. In other words, it's classified still as day 29. Afal pishe heriv hashemesh, even though the sun has set. Ki halaylo etzleinu, when it's night, eino elo mishas hakochovim, only when the stars come out, as we find Kamoshe Bianu, as explained in the chapter 2 of Shabbos. Carry on. V'zocharti loch, I like those words. Of course, it's translated in, it's really in Arabic. So someone's translated this into Hebrew for us. But I mentioned this. Shelo tachshov, you shouldn't think. Ki kiddush hachodesh lo yiyeh, seeing this moon will only happen ela yom git shloshim, only happen on day 30. And that's what we've always imagined. So in other words, let's just analyze what we've always imagined. They'd see the moon in the night of day 30. They'd come to Beis Din the following morning, day, and day 30 would be now transformed into day 1. Says the Rambam, no. It's not only Yom Shloshim, ki efshar, it's possible, sheyihye kodim leil shloshim kamoshe biyanu. In other words, there's this window between sunset and nightfall, which is normally you're transforming day 30 into day 1. You can't transform 29 into 1. That means the previous month would have been 28. You are limited to have either a 29-day month or a 30-day month. We've got something unique here, where you're announcing Rosh Chodesh in what's twilight, really, after sunset, before nightfall, and you're announcing it for the following day. Now, if I can ask you, please, oh, nice pictures there. If I can ask you to go back, Peter, to Safari, just scroll backwards a little bit more. I want to now go further.
Sorry, Norman.
Yes. Hold on. Let's find.
Sorry, I think you froze for about half a minute before. When you said something about there being a window.
Yes, there's a window. Sorry, let me just find this Rambam. Go to Rambam, please.
Sure.
You'll see this, and then I will answer your question. All being well. Come down to Seder Moed. This is the Rambam in his what's called Yoda. Have a look. No, I don't want Mishnayos. No. Sorry, go further back. I'm leading you astray here. You'll have to, I went not up, back. Go to texts. Where it say text there, or press on texts. Right, now go to Halacha. Now go to Mishnah Torah. Also, the legal code of the Rambam now. Come down. Bit more. Zmanim, we want to pick up here sanctification of the new month on the right. And we want chapter 2. And I think we want Halacha Ches. And here you'll see it in a clearer, more expanded, this is the expanded version of the Rambam, because what we saw before was just his Pirush on the Mishnah. As we scroll down to number 8, this is Halacha 8 of the Rambam. Keep going, we're nearly there, a bit more. Right, here we are, excellent. Now, there we are. Now, hold on. Right, that tells us you can only be Mekadesh during Have a look at halacha number 9. Now look at this. This is fast. This is the halacha we've seen before. Have I still lost you? Are you still frozen?
No, you're there. Please carry on.
No, you're there. Good, good. Have a look if you can. Here we are. Ra'uhu bezdin atzmon v'soif yom tisha ve'esrin. Im adayin lo yotza koichav leil shloshim. If the stars haven't come out to get into the night of the going into day 30, Bezdin Omri Makudesh. Bezdin can still say Makudesh, it's day. Sha'adayin Yomhu.
It says 1 star. It's not a 3-star.
Yeah, absolutely. You're quite right. 1 star is still okay. Even 1 star it means. Oh, you'll see. Imadayin. Actually, there is an issue with this.
I'm saying that the nightfall seems to be happening just after 1 star, as opposed to what is Shabbat.
Yeah, quite right.
As opposed to Shabbat 3.
Yes, but hold on a minute. I've got a nice source here. Hold on a minute. Yeah, if 1's okay, after 2, yeah, 1, but continue reading, please. I lost you. Yeah. Ve'im ra'u b'leil shoshim acher yosu shnei koichavim l'mocha moshivin shnei dayonim. It's far too late now. Eitzel echod. That's what we're talking about. V'yoidu ashnayim b'fnei ashleisha v'yikadshu ashleisha, which means this. That's what we've just seen. If they are relating, they saw the moon yesterday, somebody will have to say that, in which case the 2 dayonim who saw the moon will say in front of 3 dayonim, we saw the moon. Fine. But if they actually see it, and it can only really be seen after sunset, it's so small. If it's seen while it's still considered day, okay? If they saw in the night after 2 stars got here, then it's far too late. The star of the night, he says here, the 30th still hasn't emerged. There's no problem at all. He looks like he's got like in between. If it's going to be once it's after 1, you'd like a bit of a sophic. But certainly, in other words, where you're in the situation where it's after sunset, but it's still not nightfall, the stars are not visible, or you haven't got more than 1 star, then that's still classified as day to be able to make an announcement that we saw the moon. Now stop. When will Rosh Chodesh be then? They're going to announce it's Rosh Chodesh tomorrow. A most fascinating halacha. They see the moon, it's still classified as day, but they're announcing it for tomorrow because you can't have a 28-day month. You with me? Well, I've lost people here. Even though it's day, in order to announce Rosh Chodesh, you can't, and if you scroll back again, go back one more, go back. Yeah, that's the end of that. It's got to be seen during the day. Until there, it's Leil Echod Shloishim. So, yeah, again, scroll down to 9. So we've got 2 interesting things that happen here. If the Bezdin see it after sunset, then they can just say Mekudesh, Mekudesh. But when will Rosh Chodesh be? The next day. Bezdin Omer Mekudesh Adayin Yom Hu Vimrou Beleil Shloshim after. They can't announce it now, it's far too late. They'll have to wait until tomorrow to say it. But they will announce tomorrow that we saw the moon in the previous night, and there will be now day 30 transforming across to day 1. But the fascinating halacha we've just seen here, and in the Rambam, on the Pirush Mishnayos that Peter showed us earlier, the Rambam says very clearly there as well, that if they saw it after the stars, if they saw it after sunset, I've got the wording here, don't have to scroll it down. So it's very interesting halacha coming out now. So yeah, we can go back to faces if you like. A very interesting halacha that they're actually announcing Rosh Chodesh being the following day, or that day, if you like. They've seen the moon after sunset. They can still announce Rosh Chodesh, but they're announcing Rosh Chodesh for tomorrow. The most fascinating halacha. So yeah, let's go back to faces, please. Now, Michael, I don't know if you've still got a question. This is really news to, we haven't normally had this case, but now the Rambam has brought it up for us. We know the normal situation is you see the moon at night, you come the following morning, announce Rosh Chodesh. Here, they've seen the moon, and it's after sunset, it's before nightfall, so they can announce Rosh Chodesh already now for tomorrow. Fascinating. Yes, Michael, you're...
No, that's fine. I think you approached when you talked about there being a window, but I think...
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's this window between sunset and nightfall, still to announce Rosh Chodesh. If you see the moon then, and you will only see it after sunset, it's so small, and you can announce it for tomorrow, although we're actually calling it the day of the previous day. It's almost like a contradiction term, but no, don't worry about it. It's day to make an announcement, but you're going to be announcing it for tomorrow. Fascinating. So it turns out if that were to happen, you'd actually know from the very beginning. Imagine if it was on Tishri, you could know from the very beginning of the night, and when if you like, when they're davening Mahariv, it's Rosh Hashanah for sure, rather than having this doubt. I mean, it must have been a pretty rare occasion, but it could have happened. Yeah. Normally, you'd wait for a little bit later. And it wouldn't be necessarily the Dayanim seeing the moon. Yeah.
So wait a second. So in the general, the moon can only be seen after sunset. It can't be seen just physically. It can't be seen physically.
You're not going to see it though. Yes.
So the majority of cases, the Eidim would come on the day 30th, and the earliest day, so we saw it yesterday evening. In other words, the exit of the 29th day.
Correct.
The exit of the 29th day and the beginning of the 30th. Okay, that would be the
Correct.
normal, or unless it was Ma'uba, in which case come right. Okay, fine. So
yes, we've just got this strange, unique situation where there's very little time to do this because how much time have you got? Especially here in Yerushalayim, as you know. The time between sunset and is very small. Now you've got to be careful what type of stars you're talking about here. We're not talking about seeing some of the planets. And last year, for example, where Venus was visible, and sometimes you get Jupiter as well, they are not classified as standard stars because they are far too bright, and you can actually see those almost before, you can see them before sunset, actually. They're so bright, quite incredible. Actually, just as an aside, I mean, last week, Don't ask me why, but it happened at 5 o'clock, actually. It happens to people where you need to whatever, without getting into full details, using the bathroom at 5 o'clock. I went out on our mirpeset here, and a most incredible sight. I've never, ever witnessed that before. Here in Israel, we had an incredible sight across the sky. I had 4 planets in a row. It was like seeing a pearl, a string of pearls. Beautiful, the blue, it was almost sunrise, and across the sky going across, I had Venus, then I had Mars, little Mars, but not so little, bright red, Jupiter and Saturn in a row. It was incredible. I've never ever seen such a sight like that. But that's here in Israel, especially. But so at the moment they're only visible in the morning. Last year, of course, it depends how quickly. We know how quickly Venus is going round, but it was visible just around sunset. So I'm just making this point. We're not those when we talk about seeing the stars. That's very important actually for Motzei Shabbos. Venus, Jupiter, if they're visible at night, they do not count as being Motzei Shabbos. In fact, you can see them. You can see them while it's still day. So it's clearly that's not the stars we're talking about. So I just mentioned that, a fascinating halach of the Rambam. Thank you, Peter, and we move on. Any further questions?
Norman, these members of the Beis Din that spotted it, they're the only ones that know.
No, it looks like on the whole business, the whole Beis Din will have seen it.
They'll basically, and they know it's Rosh Chodesh. Therefore,
absolutely. Familiar with halachas, know the astronomy, expecting to see the moon, and all it needs is a couple of guys together, a bit of a nudge. Whoa, there it is. Mekudesh, that's all you need.
And that evening, therefore, they won't daven. They'll daven just in the morning Shemona Esrei. They won't add it. They won't add anything.
No, they will know already. They will know that day, if it would have been, let's say, Rosh Hashanah, that's Rosh Hashanah they're already announcing Rosh Hashanah.
They know, yes.
Yeah. And no doubt word will spread, but they've already announced it that early. You see, you're not normally allowed to announce Rosh Chodesh in the night. Well, it's not night.
Yes.
They've announced it before it got to night for the following night. Fascinating. Amazing halacha. I mean, that's the beauty of the Rambam. Yes. Very good question there. Probably not worth repeating for your Dvar Torah, a bit too complex, Michael, for your but we'll see what we can do for you later on. On we go, gentlemen. Better watch out for the video. Right. Now we got another case. Back to your case, Laurie, 3 of them. There they are, 3 of them just chatting as they would, these Dayonim, outside. Ra'u Shloisha, have you got it? 7 lines up. Ra'u Shloisha, V'hein Bezdin. Yamdu Shnayim, 2 of them would stand up. V'yoshivu mechabiren eitzel hayochid. They'll make one out of the 3 will act as the dayan, and he'll bring on a few of his mates. So you've got to have a Beis Din of 3 people, and they will announce it in front of 3 people tomorrow, it sounds like. Says the Gemara, Amai. Why? If these 3 dayanim see the moon, they can just announce it there then. Amai pochinami nema. Why will hearing this tomorrow morning be any better than the 3 Eidim, hitting each other, saying, down, but there's the moon. And that's good enough. They've seen the moon. Says the Bar of Achid Taman, if you'll tell me, Hochinami, it's talking about a case where they saw it at night, not in that window between sunset and nightfall. Says the Gemara, Einahach. That's exactly, we've learned this halach already. You're not telling me anything new. Says the Gemara, no, this is coming to tell me a different halacha. Sefer, it's strichale. De'ein hayochid nemon al yedei atzmai. That's a fascinating. I might have thought it's true. Let's get the normal case, not talking about the window situation. There's three of them. They're talking out there, the three Dayanim, and they see the moon. I might have thought that the following day, two of them can then testify in front of one. Why does this one person have to bring with him two mates to make up the numbers of three people? Says the Gemara, "Desalka datach amina." I might have thought, oh, Elo Tanana, seeing as we've learnt in a Mishnah, Dine Momenos Bishloisho. When it comes to financial matters, you only need three people. But Im Hoyo Mumchol Rabin, an experienced, not just experienced, and the word really means tested. He's been someone who's a real expert on the subject. And imagine for years he's been acting as the Dayan. He's talking about financial matters. Don afilu biyochid. When it comes to financial matters, you can actually have one mumchol.
Hi, I didn't recognize.
Hello? You may want to put Peter, on. No, it's nice to know what people having for supper, but we can find that out later. Don afila biyochid, 3 lines up. I might have thought that what do you classify Kiddush HaChodesh? Is it in the? It's you can't say it's capital up there. What type of? Well, do you really need? If you see what we normally talk about is you need 3 people. There is something you can have as an equivalence of 3 people. So yes, this is not a financial matter, true, but we find when you need 3 people, you can have an equivalence of one real top-class expert, and he can act on financial matters like a bezdin of 3 people. Does the same thing apply to Kiddush HaChodesh, where you're also using normally 3 dayonim? Hochinami, 3 lines up. Here as well, I might have said, Nekadshe biyechidi. Maybe these 3 people saw the moon. So it's true, they saw it at night, so they can't do anything at night. The following day, 2 of them in front of the other one will say, we saw the moon last night, you know that as well. And maybe that one will be sufficient. Komash Malon, the Mishnah tells us that's not true. You have to have 3. Says the Gemara, why? The Ema Hochanami. Maybe with Kiddush HaChodesh, why shouldn't you have, like you do in financial matters, you can have 1 top expert equivalent to 3 dayonim. I'm not talking about capital offenses, where there you do need 23 for sure. But with 3, 1 equals 3. Says the Gemara, no. Ein lecha mumcha l'rabin b'Yisrael Yosef Moshe Rabbeinu. Let's go back to the Pasuk, because we remember from Shemos chapter Yud Beis, where it says, HaChodesh hazeh lochem rosh chodoshim. And the way we've learned this, that was Hashem talking to Moshe, and he says, Hashem speaks to Moshe and Aaron, telling them that I'm handing over to you and obviously through the generations, something similar. You will, or people similar to yourselves, will act to sanctify the new moon. Now, there's no one, as we know, Lo kom Yisrael k'Moshe, u'ka'omalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says the Gemara 2 lines up. Hashem said in the Pasuk, Ad de'ika Aaron ba'adoch. You have to have Aaron with you. He speaks to both of them to say, if you're announcing the new moon, you have to do it with 2 people. Now, just 1 minute. Dichsiv, because the Pasuk says, Vayom Hashem el Moshe ve'el Aharon be'eretz Mitzrayim ha'chodesh hazeh lochem. Now look at Tosfos, please, the last Tosfos, just the first couple of lines. And there's a famous rule, also learned out from a Pasuk. You have to have a bezdin where you can end up with always you've got to be able to have a majority. You've got to have what's he called losater. You've got to be able to be mater, which means you incline it one way or the other. That means you cannot have an even number. An even number, it's true, it may be unanimous, but within even number, you may actually have both sides equal, and that you cannot have that. You have to have a case. So once you know it's Hashem spoken to Moshe and Aaron, that's two. Look at Tosfos, please. Last Tosfos, V'ein bezdin shokel. You can't have a bezdin which is equal, which means even. Mosifin alem oid echad. So we add one. So again, when it comes to a bet here in this particular announcement, they've got to be three. You cannot use an equivalence of one because you've got to have two minimum. Once you've got two minimum, then you're going to have to add one more. So which means you'll have to have three. So therefore, that's exactly what this Mishnah is telling us, this halacha, that if three people saw the moon at night, three dayonim, two of them can announce they saw the moon in front of their friend, but that friend will have to be joined with two more. Okay? Says the Gemara, a little bit more. Lememra, to say, Da'aid Nase Dayan. Please look at the Rashi. What does it mean, Aid Nase Dayan? What's happened here? These three Dayanim saw the moon. The following morning, two of them relate over to one, plus another, he takes another two people with him. Aid Nase Dayan. Have a look at Rashi, please. Misha Royu Lios Aid Badova. Nase Dayan. Someone who could have been a witness can be a Dayan. That's what Aid Nase Dayan means. An aid, someone who could have acted as a witness, can act as a judge. Carry on, Rashi. The Elu Kulon, all these three people who saw the moon, Ru'uyim liyos eidim. They can act as witnesses. Of course they can. Sharei kulam ra'u. They all saw the moon. Nevertheless, we're saying one out of those three is going to act as a dayan together, true, with two other people. But it means he could have been an aid. Says the Gemara, Lema Masnisid. You could say our Mishnah, Delo Karabi Akiva. It sounds like our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Akiva. Why? To Sanya, we've got a brisa. The brisa comes up at Jimbaba Kamal. And the brisa says Sanhedrin. Imagine you have members of the Sanhedrin. Shero Echod Shehorages Harefesh. They saw a murder. Right? Miksoson, as we turn to the next Omud. Lovely to move on. Miksoson nasu edim, umiksoson nasu dayonim. Divrei Rabbi Tarfon. They all see this, a whole Sanhedrin. They all see the murder. So some of them will act as witnesses, and some of them will act as dayonim. Okay. Have a look at Rashi. Miksosom nasim edim v'yoidu. They will give testimony bifnei chavrem, in front of their colleagues. Why? De gabi dinei nefoshes. You certainly must have testimony here. Eidus buinun. You need certain, even if you actually see it, you've got to have testimony. Not like the case of Kiddush HaChodesh. Here you've got to have a testimony. So there will be a testimony. That's fine. You've got to have two witnesses who say we saw the murder. Lo yumos. Remember, lo yumos al pi ed echad. Okay. So some of them can be aided. Next Rashi. Umiksosom nasin dayonim. And some of them can act as dayonim. Rashi immediately points out But you can't have the same people who are Eidim also acting as Dayanim. It's one or t'other. Have a look at Rashi, please. Avo. Hami'idim, those people who are acting as witnesses, lo yoshvu v'yodunu, they can't sit down and then act as dayanim, imohem, with the other people. You with me? Dohoroyu lahoy, that's what he means. Someone who's capable of being a witness is Leila Rab Tarfon. Rab Tarfon holds Nasidain. He could become, in other words, got a choice. But you can't have someone who is a witness also acting as a dain on himself. Avol aid atzmo, Rashi clarifies this for us. The witness himself, less lay the nasidayin. He certainly cannot become a dain. You can't be a dain for yourself. Now, the gabi edis hachodesh gufanami. Similarly, when it comes to edis hachodesh, is what we're discussing. Lo achsharno b'masnisin or edim nasim dayim. It's true. Those two people who see the moon, they can't act for dayonim on themselves. The imkain lomale yeshuva chavreim. Why do they need to get anybody else involved? The three people can be witnesses, and then they themselves can act as dayonim. Imagine you've got two witnesses giving testimony. It's almost like a joke. There are two people giving set testimony, and then they sit down and they say, oh, that was very good testimony. Yeah, I think we'll accept those witnesses. I mean, you can't do that. Otherwise, certainly you don't need to have anybody joining them. They could do the whole job themselves, says Rashi. Din kain lama li yoshivu mechabreim. Yo'idu bifnei yochid. They can just give testimony. And afterwards, they will sit down with this other fellow. Now, Rabbi Talfon, therefore, is of the opinion that aid naseh dayan. You with me? A witness has a choice to be an aid, even though he saw the event, he can't be a dayan. Continue the Gemara. Top line, second line down. Rabbi Akiva Oimer Kulam Nasim Eidim. They all saw the event. They can act as Eidim. The Ein Eid Naseh Dayin. Says Rashi, Kulam Eidim Emru Uyim Lahoyim. Because they saw the murder, they can all act as Eidim, but none of them are capable of acting as Dayanim, even if they're not Eidim. So, what's the Gemara saying here? The Gemara is saying the following. Our Mishnah said that these two, the three people that saw the new moon, one of them acts as the Dayan and two of them are acting as the Eidim. That means Eid, he could have been, all three of them could act as witnesses. They could also act as a Dayan, one or the other. Now, that's not what Rabbi Akiva said. Rabbi Akiva says, once you see something, you cannot act as a dayan on that. You're an aid, and that's it. Too late. You can't act as a dayan. It looks like, therefore, our Mishnah is not like the view of Rabbi Akiva. Says the Gemara, as we conclude, Afilu Tema Rabbi Akiva. Our Mishnah could even follow the view of Rabbi Akiva. How? There's a difference with capital or, let's say, murder cases and our case of Kiddush Levana. Why? It may well be that Rabbi Akiva only gave his view that once you've seen something, you can't possibly act as a dayan. That's only bedine nefashos in capital offenses. The Rachmana Omer, the Torah said, there's a passage which says you should judge the congregation, save the congregation. What does it mean, save? That means turn things if you can. Obviously, as a dayan, you've got to be capable of turning things upside down and acquitting somebody. Look at Rashi. You've got to seek out ways? Obviously, you're looking for the truth, but are there ways that you can actually say mitigating circumstances, whatever it is, and it really wasn't a murder and the person will not be killed? Can you be Hitzilo Eda? Says Rabbi Akiva, it's possible that in the case when it comes to a capital offense, I'm going back to the Gemara, the Kivan the Chazvuhu, the Kotal Nafsha, seeing as they actually saw the murder, it's going to be very hard for them to try and find ways that this potential murderer can be acquitted. They saw it. Lo motzu chozele. They are already biased. You with me? So it could well be the Rabbi Akiva only gave his rule in the case of capital offenses, where, according to Rabbi Akiva, we don't want dayanim who see a murder to act as the dayanim. They can act as Eidim, but not dayanim, because they're already biased and they're going to have difficulty acquitting this fellow. But in our case, it may well be, I feel Rabbi Akiva will also agree that the two witnesses could act either as witnesses or dayanim. They saw the new moon. You get a choice. What do you want to be? An aid or a dayan? Which, what do you want to have? What announcement do you want on, as a badge? Do you want the badge as an aid or a dayan? That you can do. But you can only do that in our case. Rabbi Akiva would say, I'm not allowing it. We are not allowing it in the case where it comes to capital offenses because we are scared that maybe the dayanim will be biased. I wouldn't say biased necessarily, but will have difficulty trying to acquit that individual. And that's what we want. Obviously, as I say, it's got to be truthful, but it's very hard if they've actually seen the murder to try and even look for ways to acquit that murderer. And therefore, we prefer him not to act in that capacity. With that, we've got to the Mishnah, which is wonderful. And that is the end, actually, of the subject of Kiddush HaChodesh. We now move into another subject of Rosh Hashanah, which is about the shofar itself. Totally different subject within Rosh Hashanah. Before we go, if you could, please, Peter, bring up on the Torah on Sefaria. There you are, Joshua. The Haftarah of this week, which is chapter 2 of Joshua. Yeah? You're talking about the Meraglim. This is sending out again the Meraglim. I've got to share this with you because my grandson, bless him, Yisrael Turner, living in Hanof, he rang me up on Friday and says, Zaidi, I've got another palindrome for you. And I said, hooray. Scroll down, please. Right to the end of the Haftarah, the last posuk. Keep going. Oh, there you are. Oh, that last posuk. No, you've gone too far. There we are. Remember, this is the end. Remember, they said to Yeshua, these are the spies that have been out to Eretz Canaan. This is in the time of Yeshua, obviously compared to the Meraglim of the Sedra. Ki nosan Hashem oh, nice, nosan, of course, in the palindrome. Well, we know that one. Ki nosan Hashem biodenos esok kol ha'oretz v'gam no moigu. They are quaking, because he says here, I like that, Lawson. No moigu kol yoshrei oretz miponenu. Look at those two words hyphenated. V'gam no mogu, please. Do you like that? Gam no mogu. Hyphenated. Palindrome. V'gam no mogu. Beautiful. I was very excited with that. And I thought, interesting, this gam no mogu going forwards and backwards. If you now turn to, if you go back, please, Peter, to Tanakh. And now turn to, go back to Exodus, Shemos 15 squared.
It's 225.
Yeah, but by this time I do want to 15. Thank you, Peter. 15. We're familiar with this. The Shiur. This is what they were singing. Oh, there we are, 50 Aznif No mogu kol yoshvei kanoam. The dwellers, they've got translated here as aghast, but it's the same word. And this, as you look at all the Meforshim, this was sung. It was almost like it's a nevuah, looking to the future, full of emunah and bitochen in Hashem, having just witnessed the splitting of the sea. They're saying this for the future. Nomogu, trembling. Oh, it's not so much trembling here, is it? It's aghast, or we saw shaking. Nomogu kol yoshvei kanoam. Beautiful. They said that in the Shiur, full of emunah in bitochen, that this is what will be happening as they go to Eretz Yisrael. And of course, that's what we're seeing there in the Gam Nomogu, going forwards and backwards, because they had that bitochen in Hashem. Hashem will see it through, and they will get there. And yes, Nomogu. We then find in Yeshua the Gam Nomogu, going backwards and forwards. You had that forwards. I'm coming back, and it's like a mirror image of the Nomogu that you had. I'm going to ensure happens to the dwellers of Eretz Canaan. You with me? So the Nomogu that you sang, full of emunah and trust in Hashem, there will be a mirror image of that, and that will actually happen as we find the Gam Nomogu, going forwards and backwards, saying that because of the emunah that you had by Yaminu Vashem of Moshe Avdoi, yes, it actually came into fruition later on with Yeshua going out. So there's another nice palindrome for you. I do love them. As we know, that's why I put Nos and David up as my name here. 2 palindromes. But yes, so if anybody ever comes up with others, I'll always be delighted. But there you are. If we can go back to faces, please. So there's another one for you, Michael, if you like palindrome. Beautiful palindrome there. But I just trying to think that the lesson of it is this backwards and forwards. We've seen that with Vanosnu, remember? Giving money for tzedakah, you never really lose. It'll come back to you somewhere. And here we've seen another one, having this emunah, and it will come back to you, but Gam Nomogu. So with that, gentlemen, I wish you well. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Who else do we have with us now? Oh, Laurie, you keeping well, I hope?
Yes, thank you, Norman. Very well.
Good to see you. Who else we got? Anybody else that we didn't speak to before? But otherwise, yes, everybody should be well.
Thank you, Norman.
We okay for next week? All being well.
Thank you, Norman.
Good. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Peter. Masterful.
Excellent. Yeah.
A masterclass.
Oh yeah, getting good on this safari, aren't you? No way around. Good stuff.